Telling my sister wives that I'm leaving. This isn't going to be a surprise.
Christine Woolley's daughter has stepped into the spotlight with revelations that have left fans and followers stunned. For years, the Woolley family has been under public scrutiny due to their reality television presence, but the younger generation has largely stayed behind the scenes, quietly observing the drama, the conflicts, and the personal struggles that unfolded on national television. Now, Christine's daughter has decided to break her silence, sharing details and insights that have never been disclosed before. These revelations not only shed light on her own experiences growing up in a highly publicized family, but also expose truths about family dynamics, interpersonal tensions, and secrets that have been carefully guarded for years. The decision to speak out was not made lightly. Growing up in a family constantly filmed for entertainment, Christine's daughter witnessed firsthand how reality television often distorts the truth, edits interactions for dramatic effect, and amplifies conflicts that may have been minor in real life. Her perspective offers a rare, unfiltered look at the family behind the cameras, providing context that fans and viewers have long speculated about but rarely understood. From childhood experiences to navigating complex relationships with co-wives, step-siblings, and extended family, her account brings depth and clarity to situations that were previously only partially visible through the lens of reality TV. One of the key revelations involves the emotional impact of growing up in a family under constant public scrutiny. Christine's daughter describes moments of anxiety, embarrassment, and pressure as she navigated her formative years with cameras in the house and a global audience watching every interaction. These experiences, while unique, highlight broader themes about privacy, identity, and personal growth in highly visible families. The stress of living under such circumstances often influenced her interactions with family members, her social development, and her own understanding of trust, loyalty, and authenticity. Beyond personal experiences, Christine's daughter exposes some of the hidden dynamics that shaped relationships within the family. She provides insights into how decisions were made behind the scenes, how conflicts between family members were often more complex than what viewers saw on television, and how certain actions by adults impacted children's emotional well-being. While the show often frames situations in black and white terms for entertainment purposes, her perspective reveals the gray areas, the nuance, the struggles, and the complicated decision-making processes that were never fully captured on camera. Christine's daughter also addresses the challenges of navigating relationships with step-siblings and co-wives. She reflects on moments of tension, misunderstanding, and jealousy, as well as instances of genuine connection and support. These experiences illustrate the delicate balance required to maintain family cohesion in a polygamous household, particularly one that is constantly under public scrutiny. Her insights shed light on the emotional complexity of growing up in such an environment, where loyalty, trust, and communication are tested daily. Another major revelation pertains to her personal growth and the journey toward independence. Christine's daughter shares how she learned to assert herself, set boundaries, and develop her own identity separate from the family drama that unfolded on television. This narrative of self-discovery is not only compelling for fans, but also offers inspiration to viewers who may be facing their own challenges in navigating family expectations, public pressure, or complex household dynamics. Her story emphasizes resilience, emotional intelligence, and the courage required to speak one's truth, even in environments where doing so is risky or controversial. The legal and financial aspects of the Woolley family are also brought into focus. Christine's daughter offers insights into decisions regarding inheritance, property, and family assets that have been long speculated about but rarely confirmed. She addresses how certain choices made by family members impacted her sense of security, fairness, and understanding of familial responsibility. By revealing these details, she not only satisfies long-standing fan curiosity, but also provides a candid account of the pressures and expectations placed on children growing up in high-profile families with complex financial dynamics. Christine's daughter doesn't shy away from discussing emotional and psychological struggles. She candidly shares moments of feeling unheard, overlooked, or marginalized within the family structure. These reflections illustrate the human cost of living in a reality TV family, where public perception can sometimes overshadow private needs and authentic experiences. By speaking openly about these challenges, she encourages conversations about mental health, emotional support, and the importance of having a safe space to express one's feelings. Her decision to expose these family secrets also serves as a form of empowerment. Christine's daughter asserts that her motivation is not to create drama or tarnish reputations, but to reclaim her narrative and provide honesty to fans who have long speculated about the inner workings of the Woolley family. She emphasizes the value of transparency, accountability, and personal integrity, demonstrating that revealing the truth can be a powerful tool for self-expression and healing. Finally, Christine's daughter offers a nuanced perspective on forgiveness, understanding, and the complexities of human relationships. While her revelations include critiques and accounts of difficult experiences, she also acknowledges moments of support, love, and resilience within the family. Her reflections balance honesty with empathy, showing that even in situations of conflict or misunderstanding, relationships can hold layers of depth that are often overlooked by audiences focused solely on drama. Christine Woolley's daughter continues her revelation by diving into specific incidents that shaped her understanding of family dynamics. Growing up in a home constantly under the gaze of cameras, she recalls moments where private matters were exposed for public consumption. These instances not only affected her personally, but also impacted her perception of trust within the family. She shares how being filmed during sensitive conversations, disagreements, or emotionally charged moments often left her feeling vulnerable and misrepresented. The editing process of reality television frequently magnified minor issues, creating a distorted narrative that did not reflect the reality of their interactions. Christine's daughter emphasizes that living under this constant surveillance required a level of emotional resilience that many viewers could not fully comprehend. The daughter also exposes the subtle hierarchies that existed within the household. While viewers often see conflicts primarily between Kody Brown and his wives, she explains that there were nuanced power dynamics among the wives themselves, and even between siblings. Christine's daughter provides insight into how favoritism, perceived or real, influenced relationships, leading to moments of tension, jealousy, and resentment. She recalls instances where minor disagreements escalated due to these underlying dynamics, leaving long-lasting impressions on her emotional and social development. A particularly striking part of her story revolves around instances of exclusion or marginalization. Christine's daughter recounts moments when she felt her opinions, needs, or perspectives were overlooked in favor of others. She describes the emotional toll of consistently navigating situations where her voice felt unheard, reinforcing the importance of validation, communication, and recognition in family relationships. These experiences, she explained, motivated her to develop stronger personal boundaries and assertiveness, skills that would later become essential in her adult life. Christine's daughter also addresses the challenges of sibling relationships. In a household with multiple children from different mothers, rivalries, alliances, and misunderstandings were common. She reveals how these dynamics were sometimes complicated by parental influence, differing expectations, and the public nature of their lives. The pressures of constant observation made it difficult for children to resolve conflicts privately, often leading to amplified tension and misunderstandings. By sharing these experiences, she provides a deeper understanding of the emotional landscape in which she was raised, highlighting the resilience required to maintain relationships amid such complexity. Another significant revelation involves her experiences with privacy and personal space. Growing up in a home regularly invaded by cameras and production crews, Christine's daughter often struggled to establish a sense of autonomy. She describes moments when private conversations, personal achievements, or mistakes were recorded and later broadcast without her consent. This lack of control over her own narrative contributed to feelings of frustration, anxiety, and a constant need to anticipate how her actions would be interpreted by both the family and the public. These insights underscore the psychological challenges faced by children in reality TV families and the importance of safeguarding personal boundaries. Christine's daughter also provides commentary on how the dynamics between co-wives influenced her upbringing. She recalls situations where tensions between her mother and other wives affected household harmony, parenting decisions, and emotional security. While viewers often perceive the wives' conflicts as entertainment, she explains that these interactions had tangible effects on children's well-being and family cohesion. Her account reveals the delicate balancing act required to maintain relationships and manage emotions in a household where multiple adults share authority, responsibilities, and influence. The daughter further exposes how public perception influenced the behavior of family members. She notes that many decisions and interactions were shaped not only by personal motives, but also by the awareness of an audience. This performative aspect added a layer of complexity to everyday life, as actions were carefully calculated to appear favorable on camera or to avoid negative scrutiny. Christine's daughter emphasizes that this dual reality, managing both genuine family interactions and public appearances, created tension and stress, often blurring the lines between authenticity and performance. She also shares her perspective on moments of genuine connection and support within the family. She recalls situations where tensions between her mother and other wives affected household harmony, parenting decisions, and emotional security. While viewers often perceive the wives' conflicts as entertainment, she explains that these interactions had tangible effects on children's well-being and family cohesion. Her account reveals the delicate balancing act required to maintain relationships and manage emotions in a household where multiple adults share authority, responsibilities, and influence. The daughter further exposes how public perception influenced the behavior of family members. She notes that many decisions and interactions were shaped not only by personal motives, but also by the awareness of an audience. This performative aspect added a layer of complexity to everyday life, as actions were carefully calculated to appear favorable on camera or to avoid negative scrutiny. Christine's daughter emphasizes that this dual reality, managing both genuine family interactions and public appearances, created tension and stress, often blurring the lines between authenticity and performance. She also shares her perspective on moments of genuine connection and support within the family. Despite the challenges, there were times of solidarity, laughter, and mutual care that she fondly remembers. These moments provided her with emotional grounding and demonstrated that even within complex and high-pressure environments, relationships can be nurturing and meaningful. By highlighting these positive experiences alongside the difficulties, she paints a balanced picture of life in the Woolley household, showing that the family dynamic is multi-layered and not solely defined by conflict or drama.
Christine Woolley's daughter continues to pull back the curtain on the Woolley family,
revealing the intricate layers of personal dynamics, hidden conflicts, and emotional challenges that shaped her upbringing. One of the key points she emphasizes is how childhood experiences in a reality TV family differed drastically from what viewers saw on screen. While the public witnessed carefully edited interactions and dramatized events, the behind-the-scenes reality was far more complex, nuanced, and at times painful. She explains that understanding the truth requires acknowledging both the visible and invisible pressures placed on children in such a household, from balancing attention among multiple siblings to navigating the emotional terrain of co-wives with differing personalities and priorities. One of the most striking revelations in this part of her account involves her perspective on favoritism within the household. Christine's daughter describes how subtle shifts in parental attention or validation had significant emotional impact. When certain actions or achievements were praised more than others, or when some siblings received preferential treatment in decision-making or support, it created an undercurrent of tension and insecurity. These moments were often magnified by the presence of cameras, which heightened awareness of public perception and in turn influenced behavior. She recalls feeling a combination of admiration, envy, and frustration as she navigated these unequal dynamics, highlighting how deeply family structure and social positioning affect emotional development. Christine's daughter also shares intimate details about moments of conflict with peers and co-siblings. She provides examples of disagreements that, although minor in isolation, escalated due to the layered household environment and the constant observation of family members and production staff. These conflicts often involved issues of fairness, privacy, and respect, and they shaped her understanding of negotiation, compromise, and resilience. She notes that the lessons learned in these interactions, both in resolving disputes and in asserting her boundaries, have had a lasting impact on her interpersonal skills and her ability to handle complex adult relationships. Another major area of revelation involves the emotional impact of public scrutiny. Christine's daughter reflects on how fan reactions, social media commentary, and online speculation affected her personal life. From observing unkind or misinformed remarks about family decisions to seeing selective portrayals of herself and others, she describes feeling a heightened sense of self-consciousness and the pressure to manage her image carefully. This constant monitoring created tension in her everyday interactions and required her to develop coping strategies to maintain emotional stability. By addressing these pressures, she gives viewers an intimate look at the psychological toll of growing up in a household that is simultaneously a family and a public performance. Christine's daughter goes on to reveal early experiences that shaped her perception of trust and honesty within the family. She recounts incidents where private conversations were shared without consent, or where family members acted in ways that undermined her sense of safety. These moments created lingering concerns about vulnerability and the reliability of relationships, which later informed her approach to friendships and interpersonal boundaries. Her disclosures highlight the importance of trust, transparency, and personal agency, especially for individuals growing up in high-profile households with complex interpersonal dynamics. The daughter also sheds light on moments of mentorship and guidance from other family members. Despite conflicts and misunderstandings, there were instances where adults in the family provided emotional support, advice, and encouragement. These relationships offered balance and stability, teaching her lessons about resilience, patience, and empathy. Christine's daughter acknowledges that while challenges were frequent, these positive interactions were essential in helping her develop emotional intelligence and a sense of agency within the family structure. A significant portion of her revelations centers on previously undisclosed incidents that impacted her family's public image. She explains how certain conflicts, disagreements, and decisions were carefully managed by adults to present a particular narrative on television. These carefully curated portrayals often omitted context, minimized certain behaviors, or amplified others to create compelling storylines. Christine's daughter provides her first-hand perspective on these events, correcting misconceptions and revealing the motivations, intentions, and emotions that were hidden from viewers. These disclosures not only challenge the narrative presented to fans, but also underscore the gap between reality TV storytelling and real-life experiences. Christine's daughter also delves into her relationship with her mother, Woolley, offering insight into the balance of support, guidance, and independence she experienced growing up. She explains how her mother's decisions, both public and private, shaped her understanding of family, responsibility, and personal growth. While Woolley provided love, guidance, and protection, the daughter notes that she also had to learn to navigate challenging family dynamics on her own, particularly when conflicts arose between co-wives or within sibling relationships. This dual approach helped her develop resilience, assertiveness, and the ability to advocate for herself in complex situations. As Woolley's daughter continues her revelations, she begins to focus on the pivotal moments that expose the deeper fractures in family relationships and the hidden tensions that viewers rarely saw.
One of the most significant aspects she highlights is the emotional complexity of growing up in a blended, polygamous household under the constant scrutiny of cameras and fans. Unlike traditional families where conflicts and resolutions often remain private, her experiences were amplified by public attention, making every disagreement, misunderstanding, or mistake a matter of potential broadcasted drama. She explains how this constant observation created pressure to perform, often forcing her and her siblings to manage their emotions carefully while navigating the unpredictable dynamics of their household. A key revelation in this part involves the division of attention among family members. Christine's daughter recalls moments when it seemed that certain children or step-siblings received preferential treatment or more affection, whether intentional or perceived. These situations often led to feelings of exclusion, resentment, and emotional stress. The daughter emphasizes how these experiences influenced her perspective on fairness, loyalty, and the need to advocate for oneself in complex family structures. She explains that navigating this environment required emotional intelligence far beyond her years, as she learned to manage feelings of jealousy, insecurity, and competition in a highly public setting. Christine's daughter also exposes some of the more shocking secrets about household rules and expectations. She recalls instances where decisions were made without consultation or transparency, leaving her feeling sidelined or powerless. These situations often revolved around finances, family events, or parental priorities, and were compounded by the added pressure of reality TV production schedules. The daughter reveals how these moments contributed to a growing awareness of power dynamics within the family and a recognition of the necessity to maintain personal boundaries and assert independence when possible. Conflict between co-wives and the resulting impact on children is another significant theme in this part of her story. Christine's daughter describes how disagreements among the adults often trickled down, affecting the emotional climate of the household. She recounts moments where she had to mediate, navigate, or endure tension between adults, learning early on how to manage difficult situations diplomatically. These experiences, while challenging, also provided her with insight into negotiation, problem-solving, and the importance of empathy, skills that continue to influence her approach to relationships and conflict resolution today. In addition, Christine's daughter reflects on her personal growth in response to these challenges. She explains that growing up in a high-pressure, scrutinized environment taught her resilience, patience, and self-reliance. She had to learn when to speak up, when to step back, and how to identify trustworthy allies within the household. These lessons were often learned through trial and error, with mistakes serving as powerful tools for emotional development and understanding the intricacies of complex family relationships. She notes that while the environment was stressful, it also instilled a strong sense of independence and self-awareness that shaped her into the person she is today. A particularly compelling aspect of her account involves moments of secrecy and concealment within the household. Christine's daughter reveals that there were times when adults hid information, withheld explanations, or presented selective truths to manage perceptions, both within the family and to the outside world. These actions, while often strategic from the adult's perspective, created confusion, mistrust, and emotional strain for children who were caught between honesty and deception. By exposing these patterns, Christine's daughter highlights the psychological complexity of growing up in a reality TV family and the necessity of critical thinking, discernment, and emotional fortitude. Christine's daughter also touches on the role of media and fan expectations in shaping family behavior. She notes that the presence of cameras and a watching audience sometimes influenced decisions, conversations, and emotional responses. Family members were conscious of how their actions might be interpreted or judged, creating a layer of performative behavior that complicated genuine interactions. She reflects on how this environment taught her to distinguish between authentic connection and performative compliance, a lesson that became increasingly important as she matured and learned to navigate social dynamics both within and outside the family. The daughter continues to reveal incidents where her trust was compromised by family members' actions. She describes specific situations when promises were broken, confidences were shared without consent, or emotional support was withheld. These moments contributed to a heightened sense of caution and a careful approach to relationships, emphasizing the importance of self-protection while still striving to maintain meaningful connections. Her reflections underscore the delicate balance between vulnerability and self-preservation in complex family settings. Also explores the emotional consequences of living in a family that prioritizes public image over individual needs. Christine's daughter shares how the constant emphasis on appearances, ratings, and audience perception often overshadowed genuine emotional care. She recalls moments where personal feelings were minimized or overlooked in favor of creating compelling storylines for television. These experiences reinforced her awareness of the importance of advocating for oneself, seeking validation from authentic sources, and maintaining emotional resilience in the face of neglect or misunderstanding.
Christine Woolley's daughter delves deeper into the hidden realities of her upbringing, exposing incidents and dynamics that fans have long speculated about, but never fully understood. One of the central themes she addresses is the challenge of maintaining personal identity in a family constantly under the spotlight. From a young age, she felt the pressure to conform to the expectations of adults, co-wives, and production teams, which often conflicted with her own needs, desires, and understanding of self. She explains how this tension created internal conflict as she struggled to balance obedience, familial loyalty, and the pursuit of authenticity. Over time, these experiences shaped her into someone who values honesty, integrity, and the courage to speak her truth, even when it is unpopular or exposes uncomfortable realities. The daughter provides an unfiltered perspective on how conflicts among adults affected her daily life. She recounts incidents where disagreements between Christine Woolley and other family members, including co-wives, resulted in emotional tension, heightened anxiety, and a feeling of instability within the household. While reality TV often portrays these conflicts in brief, dramatic snippets, the cumulative impact on children and young adults is far more profound. Christine's daughter emphasizes that these moments created lasting impressions, teaching her early on about the complexity of human behavior, the unpredictability of relationships, and the importance of maintaining boundaries while navigating challenging social environments. Financial decisions and family resource management are another area she exposes in this part. Christine's daughter recalls instances where funds, property, or resources were allocated without her input or consideration, often favoring certain family members or aligning with decisions that appeared strategically motivated for public image. These experiences contributed to a heightened awareness of fairness, trust, and responsibility, as well as a critical understanding of how power operates within a family system. She shares that witnessing these decisions firsthand gave her valuable lessons about negotiation, advocacy, and the necessity of asserting one's rights and perspective within a complex household structure. A key component of Part 5 involves the psychological impact of being part of a televised family. Christine's daughter reflects on the constant tension of being observed, the internalized fear of judgment, and the challenge of interpreting personal experiences amidst public scrutiny. She discusses the coping strategies she developed, from selectively sharing personal information to carefully managing interactions to avoid misinterpretation. These strategies were essential for emotional survival and helped her navigate both the family environment and the wider social world influenced by her family's visibility. She also exposes more subtle forms of manipulation and emotional complexity she observed among adults in the household. From strategic storytelling to selective attention and inconsistent emotional support, these behaviors often left her feeling uncertain about trust, loyalty, and her own place within the family. Christine's daughter emphasizes that while these behaviors were not always overtly harmful, their cumulative effect contributed to a sense of unpredictability and necessitated the development of resilience and emotional intelligence. For Kody, Christine's daughter also explores her evolving understanding of family loyalty and trust. Christine's daughter reflects on how witnessing both positive and negative interactions shaped her perspective on relationship dynamics. She acknowledges moments of solidarity, support, and love that coexisted with manipulation, secrecy, and conflict, illustrating that family life is rarely simple or one-dimensional. These experiences taught her valuable lessons about assessing character, maintaining healthy boundaries, and recognizing when relationships are constructive versus potentially harmful. Another important area of revelation involves her perspective on co-wives and their influence on household dynamics. Christine's daughter discusses how interpersonal tensions between adults created a ripple effect that influenced siblings, parenting decisions, and household harmony. She recalls moments where disagreements or alliances among co-wives indirectly affected her emotional security, social positioning, and sense of stability. These observations underscore the complexity of navigating blended households with multiple parental figures, each with unique personalities, priorities, and approaches to conflict. The daughter also shares how public perception often distorted her interactions. Fans, critics, and media outlets frequently speculated about motives, alliances, and conflicts within the family, creating additional pressure and misrepresentation. Christine's daughter explains that the reality of interactions behind the cameras was far more nuanced, often involving compromises, attempts at mediation, and unspoken rules that the public was unaware of. By revealing these insights, she provides context that challenges oversimplified narratives and helps viewers better understand the emotional and social complexity of her upbringing. For Kody, Christine's daughter also emphasizes the psychological growth and self-awareness she developed over time. The challenges of living in a high-pressure, observed environment forced her to reflect critically on her own behavior, assess her emotional responses, and cultivate strategies for maintaining stability and agency. Christine's daughter underscores that these lessons were instrumental in preparing her for adulthood, giving her tools to navigate complex relationships, advocate for herself, and make independent decisions with confidence. Christine Woolley's daughter continues to provide a rare and unfiltered look into the inner workings of her family, revealing layers of complexity, emotion, and secrets that have never been publicly disclosed. One of the central themes in Part 6 is the impact of long-term secrecy on trust within the household. She recounts numerous situations where critical information was deliberately withheld from her, her siblings, or even certain adults, creating an environment where assumptions, misunderstandings, and suspicion flourished.
These experiences, while often subtle, shaped her understanding of how family dynamics operate behind the scenes, highlighting the importance of transparency and communication for emotional security. A major revelation in this section involves instances where family decisions were made that directly affected her life, yet she had no say or awareness of them. Christine's daughter explains that these decisions range from everyday household choices to significant matters such as education, financial allocations, and public representation on reality TV. The lack of agency she experienced in these situations was both frustrating and educational, teaching her early lessons about advocacy, personal boundaries, and the importance of self-assertion in complex social situations. She reflects on how these experiences influenced her ability to navigate authority and develop confidence in standing up for herself in complex social situations. For Kody, Christine's daughter also delves into the nuanced dynamics between co-wives and the resulting impact on children. Christine's daughter recalls moments when disagreements or alliances among the adults subtly affected her emotional well-being, daily routines, and sense of safety. She explains how these interactions often required her to develop acute observational skills and emotional intelligence to interpret subtle cues, anticipate outcomes, and protect her own emotional stability. These insights shed light on the often overlooked challenges faced by children in blended families with multiple parental figures, particularly when combined with the added stress of being filmed for public consumption. Christine's daughter provides an in-depth examination of the emotional labor she had to perform while growing up. She describes the ways in which she learned to mediate conflicts, manage tensions, and even shield herself and younger siblings from adult disputes. While these experiences were demanding, they also cultivated resilience, empathy, and problem-solving skills. She emphasizes that children growing up in high-conflict or high-stress environments often take on responsibilities beyond their years, shaping their development in profound and lasting ways. Another important revelation involves her observations of favoritism and inequality among family members. Christine's daughter recalls moments where attention, praise, or resources were distributed unevenly, creating feelings of exclusion and frustration. She reflects on how these experiences shaped her sense of justice, fairness, and personal boundaries, as well as her understanding of how relationships are influenced by perceived or actual favoritism. These insights highlight the emotional impact of family dynamics that may seem minor to outsiders, but carry significant weight for those living within them. For Kody, Christine's daughter also addresses the challenges of navigating friendships both inside and outside the household. She notes that growing up in a publicized family environment often complicated relationships with peers, as classmates, friends, and extended social networks were aware of her family's reputation and public image. She recounts instances where trust was tested, loyalties were questioned, and misunderstandings arose, all influenced by the shadow of reality television. These experiences underscore the importance of self-awareness, discernment, and the careful cultivation of relationships in complex social contexts. Christine's daughter shares specific incidents of emotional manipulation and control that occurred behind the scenes. While reality TV often dramatizes conflict for entertainment, she explained that there were subtle forms of emotional influence that were not captured on camera. These included strategic communication, selective disclosure of information, and pressure to act in ways that aligned with the family's public image rather than personal feelings. She reflects on how these experiences shaped her understanding of authenticity, trust, and the necessity of establishing boundaries in personal and familial relationships. The daughter also highlights moments of personal triumph and self-discovery. Despite the challenges of growing up under public scrutiny and navigating a complex household, she recounts times when she asserted her independence, pursued personal goals, and cultivated a sense of identity separate from the family narrative. These experiences demonstrate the resilience and determination required to maintain individuality in a high-pressure environment and provide viewers with an inspiring example of personal growth in the face of adversity. In addition, Christine's daughter examines the tension between privacy and publicity. Christine's daughter explains how the family often had to balance private emotions with the expectations of viewers, producers, and fans. This dual reality sometimes led to conflicts, miscommunications, and feelings of vulnerability, as private struggles were either exposed or deliberately masked. She emphasizes that growing up in this environment required a sophisticated understanding of social dynamics, emotional regulation, and strategic decision-making. Finally, Christine's daughter sets the stage for even deeper revelations. She begins to hint at some of the most shocking secrets, including conflicts, hidden decisions, and incidents that had long-term consequences for her and other family members. These tantalizing hints build anticipation for the next parts of the series, promising viewers insights that challenge previously held assumptions and provide an unprecedented look into the inner life of the Woolley family.
Christine Woolley's daughter continues her candid revelations, offering even deeper insights into the family dynamics that shaped her childhood and early adulthood. In Part 8, she focuses on the hidden tensions that often existed between adults and how those tensions indirectly impacted her life. While viewers of Sister Wives see edited segments emphasizing dramatic confrontations or lighthearted disagreements, the reality behind the cameras was far more layered. Christine's daughter explains that minor conflicts between co-wives or family members frequently had ripple effects, influencing decision-making, emotional stability, and day-to-day interactions. These moments often required her to navigate delicate social terrain, carefully choosing how to respond to situations while balancing her own needs with the complex dynamics of her family. A significant aspect of this part of her story involves the ways in which trust was tested within the household. Christine's daughter recalls numerous instances where promises were broken, confidential information was shared without consent, or her perspective was ignored in critical discussions. These experiences created a heightened sense of caution and awareness, teaching her to evaluate relationships critically and establish personal boundaries. She emphasizes that growing up in a high-profile, complex family required a constant assessment of who could be relied upon and in what contexts, fostering an acute sense of discernment that became a core part of her development. 8 also delves into the psychological impact of living under the constant gaze of the public. Christine's daughter explains that the pressure to manage appearances, behave appropriately for the camera, and meet public expectations created a unique stress not experienced by most children. She shares moments where she felt self-conscious, misunderstood, or forced to suppress genuine emotional reactions for fear of judgment or misrepresentation. These experiences shaped her understanding of authenticity, self-expression, and the importance of emotional regulation, preparing her to navigate complex social environments outside the family household. In addition to these pressures, Christine's daughter exposes the subtle emotional manipulations that sometimes occurred within the family. From selective communication to strategic behavior designed to influence outcomes or maintain a certain public image, these dynamics required her to be highly observant and adaptive. She explains that recognizing these patterns at a young age taught her critical life skills, including negotiation, self-advocacy, and emotional intelligence. While these lessons were learned under difficult circumstances, they ultimately contributed to her ability to navigate relationships with greater confidence and discernment. Christine's daughter also sheds light on the long-term effects of growing up in a household with multiple parental figures and co-wives. She recounts moments when conflicting messages, divided attention, or inconsistent emotional support left her feeling uncertain about expectations and responsibilities. These experiences often forced her to develop self-reliance, critical thinking, and the ability to make decisions independently. She reflects on how these skills have been invaluable in her adult life, equipping her to handle complex interpersonal situations with a combination of empathy, pragmatism, and assertiveness. A major revelation in Part 8 involves the intersection of public perception and private reality. Christine's daughter discusses how family members were aware of how their actions could be interpreted by viewers, fans, and media outlets, which sometimes influenced behavior in ways that conflicted with genuine emotion or intent. She recalls situations where adults acted in calculated ways for the camera or withheld information to avoid negative scrutiny, which in turn created confusion and frustration for children attempting to understand the true motives behind actions. This duality between reality and performance is a recurring theme in her account, highlighting the complexity of growing up in a televised family. Christine's daughter also addresses the emotional burden of witnessing conflicts between adults and its effect on sibling relationships. She explains that navigating these tensions required her to mediate, adapt, and sometimes suppress her own needs to maintain harmony. These experiences, while challenging, provided valuable lessons in empathy, problem-solving, and conflict resolution. She emphasizes that learning to balance personal well-being with the needs of others has been a critical component of her growth and remains a guiding principle in her adult relationships. In Part 8, she begins to reveal more specific incidents that illustrate the family secrets she has been hinting at throughout the series. These incidents include decisions made without her knowledge, moments of emotional manipulation, or situations where her trust was tested in ways that had lasting consequences. While she provides these details with sensitivity, they offer a startling insight into the hidden pressures and challenges of life inside the Woolley household, going far beyond what viewers have seen on television. Finally, Christine's daughter reflects on the resilience required to navigate these challenges. She shares how each difficult experience contributed to her personal growth, teaching her to prioritize emotional health, establish boundaries, and develop a sense of self that is independent of public perception or family expectations. 8 concludes by setting the stage for even deeper disclosures in the next segments, promising viewers a continued journey into the secrets, struggles, and revelations that defined her story. Christine's daughter now dives even deeper into her family's hidden realities, exposing layers of tension, secrecy, and emotional complexity that viewers have never seen. One of the key focuses in Part 8 is the delicate balance between loyalty and personal truth. Growing up in a family where multiple adults and co-wives shared authority, she often found herself in situations where speaking her mind could create conflict, yet remaining silent sometimes felt like compromising her own integrity. She recalls the constant struggle to navigate these competing pressures, learning early on that honesty, tact, and strategic communication were essential tools in maintaining relationships while preserving her sense of self. A significant part of her story in this section revolves around the emotional impact of observing conflicts between adults. Christine's daughter explains that tensions between co-wives or between her mother and other family members were not just isolated incidents. They often shaped the emotional climate of the entire household. She recounts moments when disagreements escalated, creating stress, anxiety, and uncertainty for children. While the reality show captures snapshots of these events for entertainment purposes, the behind-the-scenes experience was far more complex, with lasting emotional consequences for those involved. These insights help fans understand the deeper ramifications of family conflict beyond what was edited for television. Christine's daughter also reveals how growing up in a publicized family affected her friendships outside the household. Peers often had preconceived notions about her family, and rumors or speculation frequently influenced social interactions. She recalls times when she felt isolated, misunderstood, or pressured to explain family dynamics to outsiders. These experiences taught her early lessons in discernment, empathy, and resilience, as she learned to navigate relationships with a balance of openness and caution. The constant awareness of public perception also instilled a level of maturity beyond her years, shaping how she approached social interactions and personal relationships in adulthood. Another major revelation in Part 8 involves the subtle manipulation and control exerted by adults within the family. Christine's daughter recalls instances where information was selectively shared, expectations were unclear, or emotional appeals were used to influence her actions or decisions. These experiences contributed to a heightened sense of vigilance and self-awareness, teaching her to critically assess situations, interpret motives, and assert her own needs despite external pressures. She emphasizes that these lessons were invaluable in helping her develop independence and emotional intelligence, essential tools for navigating both personal and professional relationships today. The daughter also addresses her experiences with favoritism and perceived inequality. She recounts moments when certain siblings received more attention, support, or praise, which impacted her sense of fairness and belonging. These situations required her to develop coping strategies, emotional resilience, and an understanding of how to advocate for herself without creating additional conflict. By sharing these experiences, she highlights the emotional complexities of growing up in a blended family with multiple parental figures, where the distribution of resources, attention, and affection was not always equal or transparent. 8 also explores the tension between privacy and performance. Christine's daughter explains that the presence of cameras and public attention created a constant duality, where actions and emotions had to be managed for both personal and public consumption. She recalls situations where expressing genuine feelings could be misinterpreted, edited, or exposed in ways that created unnecessary drama. This ongoing balancing act required her to develop strategies for self-protection, emotional regulation, and effective communication, skills that continue to inform her approach to personal and professional relationships today. In this part, she further elaborates on moments of personal growth and self-assertion. Despite the challenges, she recalls times when she stood up for herself, made independent choices, and navigated difficult family interactions with courage and maturity. These moments were often small but significant, demonstrating her resilience and the development of a strong sense of identity separate from family pressures and public scrutiny. Christine's daughter emphasizes that these experiences were instrumental in shaping her confidence and empowering her to speak openly about the secrets and challenges she faced. Another area of focus in Part 8 is the subtle but lasting impact of family decisions that excluded her input. She recounts incidents where choices about education, living arrangements, or family priorities were made without her knowledge or consent, leaving her feeling powerless and undervalued. These experiences reinforce the importance of advocating for herself, seeking clarity, and ensuring that her voice was heard in matters that directly affected her life. Christine's daughter reflects that these moments, while difficult, were also pivotal in teaching her self-reliance and the skills necessary to navigate complex family systems. 8 also explores the most significant family secrets that she had been hinting at throughout her account. Christine's daughter alludes to instances of hidden conflicts, concealed decisions, and emotionally charged situations that had long-term consequences for her and her siblings. These hints serve as a bridge to the revelations that will follow in Parts 9 and 10, building anticipation and preparing viewers for the most candid and eye-opening disclosures yet. By sharing both personal reflections and behind-the-scenes details, she continues to create a narrative that is at once honest, compelling, and deeply human, providing unprecedented insight into the inner life of the Woolley household.
Christine Woolley's daughter now moves into some of the most revealing and shocking details of her family's hidden dynamics, exposing truths that have remained unspoken for years. She focuses on specific incidents that illuminate the complexity, secrecy, and emotional weight of her upbringing. One of the central themes she addresses is the contrast between public perception and private reality. While viewers of Sister Wives may have seen dramatic moments edited for entertainment, Christine's daughter explains that the underlying causes, context, and consequences of those events were far more intricate than the show could ever convey. She shares firsthand accounts of situations where misunderstandings were magnified, emotions were manipulated, and decisions were made without transparency, painting a fuller picture of the challenges she faced growing up. A key revelation in this part involves the management of trust within the family. Christine's daughter recalls incidents where confidences were broken, promises were unfulfilled, or information was withheld, leaving her feeling vulnerable and uncertain about who she could rely upon. These experiences cultivated a heightened sense of vigilance and critical thinking, forcing her to assess the motivations of those around her and develop strategies to protect herself emotionally. She emphasizes that these lessons, while difficult, ultimately strengthened her resilience and prepared her for adult relationships, both within and outside the family. E also delves into the psychological impact of growing up in a household with multiple co-wives and children from different mothers. Christine's daughter recounts moments where conflicts between adults influence daily routines, emotional stability, and sibling relationships. She explains that navigating these tensions required advanced emotional intelligence and careful observation to understand the dynamics at play. These experiences shaped her understanding of negotiation, compromise, and maintaining personal boundaries in complex social environments. Another significant area of revelation involves the pressures of public scrutiny. Christine's daughter shares how awareness of a watching audience influenced her behavior, the actions of family members, and the decisions made within the household. She reflects on moments where family members acted strategically for the cameras or withheld emotions to maintain appearances, creating a dual reality that was both challenging and confusing for children growing up in the home. This tension between authenticity and performance contributed to her understanding of social dynamics, self-presentation, and the careful management of personal and family reputation. Christine's daughter also exposes instances of favoritism and inequality that shaped her early experiences. She recalls moments where attention, praise, or opportunities were distributed unevenly, often causing feelings of exclusion or frustration. These experiences reinforce the importance of advocating for oneself, understanding personal value, and learning to navigate environments where fairness is not guaranteed. By sharing these reflections, she highlights the emotional complexity of growing up in a blended, polygamous household, where multiple adults influence outcomes in subtle and sometimes opaque ways. E examines the emotional labor she performed while growing up. Christine's daughter explains how she often had to mediate disputes, navigate tension between adults, and manage her own feelings to maintain household harmony. These responsibilities, while demanding, contributed to her development of empathy, problem-solving skills, and emotional resilience. She notes that these experiences, though challenging, ultimately prepared her to face adult relationships and professional interactions with maturity, awareness, and a balanced perspective. E also introduces more specific family secrets that she had been building toward throughout her account. Christine's daughter discusses incidents involving concealed decisions, hidden disagreements, and emotionally charged situations that had lasting repercussions for her and her siblings. She provides context and insight that challenge the narrative presented to the public, revealing motivations, intentions, and consequences that viewers have never seen. These revelations underscore the complex interplay of personal needs, family dynamics, and public performance in shaping life inside the Woolley household. Another key aspect of this section is her reflection on personal growth. Christine's daughter shares how navigating secrecy, conflict, and high expectations cultivated a strong sense of self, independence, and emotional intelligence. She emphasizes that understanding the intricacies of her family's behavior allowed her to develop coping strategies, assert boundaries, and maintain authenticity despite external pressures. These insights provide a roadmap for viewers on how to cultivate resilience, self-awareness, and agency in their own lives, even under challenging circumstances. Finally, sets the stage for the concluding and most revealing segment of her account. Christine's daughter teases the ultimate disclosures about family secrets, long-hidden conflicts, and decisions that had profound consequences for her and other members of the household. She emphasizes that these revelations are not intended to create drama, but to provide clarity, honesty, and context for understanding the complexities of her upbringing. This section builds anticipation, preparing viewers. In the concluding part of her revelations, Christine Woolley's daughter pulls back the final layers of secrecy, providing the most candid and shocking insights into her family and the hidden dynamics that shaped her upbringing. This part begins by addressing the culmination of years of unseen tension, undisclosed decisions, and emotional complexities that were never fully revealed to the public. She emphasizes that her goal in sharing these experiences is not to create conflict, but to illuminate the reality behind the carefully edited narrative portrayed on reality television. Christine's daughter begins by recounting the most significant incidents that had lasting consequences on her sense of self and her understanding of family relationships. She recalls situations where critical choices were made without her input, where information was deliberately withheld, and where the emotional well-being of children was subordinated to adult agendas or public perception. These incidents, often hidden from the cameras, left her with lasting lessons about agency, independence, and the necessity of asserting her voice in matters that directly affect her life. A central theme in this final part is the revelation of secrets that have long been speculated about but never confirmed. Christine's daughter shares details about conflicts, financial decisions, and personal disagreements that were kept private, offering insight into the real motivations, fears, and struggles of her family members. She provides context for why certain choices were made, how relationships were strained, and how misunderstandings were perpetuated over time. These revelations provide a clear understanding of the complexities behind the family's public persona, revealing the intricate interplay of love, loyalty, and self-interest. Christine's daughter also reflects on the emotional toll of growing up in a blended household with multiple parental figures and co-wives. She recounts moments of exclusion, favoritism, and tension that left her navigating a complex web of relationships, loyalties, and expectations. These experiences required her to develop heightened emotional intelligence, discernment, and resilience.
She emphasizes that the lessons learned through these challenges have shaped her into a self-aware and independent individual capable of understanding and managing complex relationships. Another key focus in E is the impact of public scrutiny on her personal development. Christine's daughter details how awareness of a watching audience influenced family behavior, created performative pressure, and complicated emotional interactions. She explains that living in a household where private struggles could be broadcast at any time required vigilance, careful communication, and the ability to protect her own sense of self. By sharing these insights, she illustrates how growing up in a televised environment adds a layer of complexity that is often underestimated by viewers. Christine's daughter also explores the lessons she learned about trust, loyalty, and authenticity. She recounts moments where trust was tested, where allegiances shifted, and where her perceptions of fairness were challenged. Through these experiences, she developed the ability to evaluate relationships critically, assert boundaries, and identify who genuinely supported her versus those who acted in their own interest. She emphasizes that these skills were invaluable not only in her family life, but also in forming meaningful relationships beyond the household. In addition to revealing family secrets, Christine's daughter highlights moments of resilience, personal growth, and empowerment. She recalls times when she stood up for herself, navigated difficult interactions with courage, and pursued her own goals despite obstacles. These experiences illustrate the importance of agency, self-advocacy, and emotional strength in shaping her identity. She stresses that the challenges she faced, while difficult, ultimately forged her character and provided a foundation for navigating adulthood with confidence and self-awareness. E addresses reconciliation and perspective. Christine's daughter acknowledges that while many incidents were painful or confusing, she understands the pressures and constraints faced by her family members. She reflects on the balance between empathy and accountability, explaining that seeing the complexities behind adult decisions allows her to process her experiences without bitterness. This reflection provides a nuanced perspective, highlighting that families are rarely simple, and that understanding motivations and context is key to processing past experiences. Finally, the conclusion brings together the overarching themes of her story, the interplay of secrecy, family dynamics, public scrutiny, and personal growth. Christine's daughter offers a candid and heartfelt message to viewers, encouraging a deeper understanding of the challenges faced by children in high-profile, complex households. She emphasizes the importance of resilience, self-advocacy, and authenticity, and shares her hope that by telling her story, others will gain insight into the realities behind the curated images and narratives presented on reality television. This final part closes her narrative by affirming that despite the secrets, conflicts, and challenges, she has emerged stronger, self-aware, and empowered. Her story stands as both a personal testament and a revealing commentary on the hidden realities of growing up in a blended, polygamous household under the public eye, providing unprecedented insight into the human experience behind the cameras of Sister Wives.